Oh dear.
Speaking of being dumbed down.
Oh, funny.
I love it. We are live, big guy.
We are
We
live.
are live.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Serious to all of those people that tag me in posts. I'm sorry that I never respond because I just never am on social. Do you ever log onto Facebook, Damo, and it's like, oh, Buggerlugs tagged you and this person commented here and this person said happy birthday and this person sent you a message and you're like, oh, pardon? Whoops. Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's more
Hi,
being tagged
everybody.
in other people's stories. Like even the Wellness Couch, it says the Wellness Couch tagged you in their story, and I've got 9 of them, which means that it's 9 weeks. You know, didn't check it, didn't notice it.
Oh dear.
Uh,
Um, all right. There we go. I don't know how to do it. I want to share, but it won't let me anymore. All right. Big chats with Damo today. He's
big
vegan.
topic. Big topic.
Got a double whammy. He's vegan for the environment. And
Let's just...
are we being dumbed down? All righty. Post. Let's see. What the F-bomb are we doing? It's Friday. Well, it's a great time. You know, it is such a conversational day. I have had that many conversations today. There's something in the air.
Mm-hmm.
People want to... I need to check my moon diary.
What is happening with it? It's like it's a waxing moon. No, it's a waning moon. It's a waning moon.
Just about to hit a new moon in the next 3 days. So we're probably ingressing into Sagittarius. We just we finished off Scorpio the other day. I've learned I have got to have the biggest chats with you and maybe our 100 Not Out listeners. I have just been reading up big time on astrology over the summer.
All right.
I'm going to become an astrologer to the stars. That's my next calling, I think.
All right. I love it.
Scorpio is all about intensity, and I will just tell you one thing, Damo, because you know that we've laughed about this over the years.
Always laugh at Venus entering Uranus. Always laugh at that one.
Uranus. Yeah. It's a love match. I broke my hip and my shoulder.
True.
Both in Scorpio. I blame you.
That's what happens. If you're not a Scorpio, you don't belong. This is the thing, right? So that's a Darwinian Scorpio blending. And
the reason why I've realized I love astrology is because it is the philosophy of astronomy. And now it all makes sense. So astronomers can tell you every star in the sky, but they don't necessarily believe that it means anything.
Right.
But astrology puts the meaning behind the anatomy of the universe. So that's why from a Cairo perspective, it like clicks so much with how people like you and I and our friends in Ikaria see the world.
Well, maybe then I might get into that because I love a bit of philosophy. Love it.
I have learned so much about health and life because of your ability to communicate your philosophy. It is honestly, that's what is so attractive about you as a human being. You're so good at sharing your philosophy.
Not the lack of hair. The impeccable dress sense.
It always just gives me, no matter how much
forehead, none of that.
My head.
Oh, okay.
Just
thanks, Piercy. It's internal.
And you carry your head so well.
It's on my shoulders, big shoulders, shoulders, Piercy.
Yeah.
Well,
it's great to have so many of our 100 Not Out people with us on an odd day today.
Yeah, odd day. What is that? Great to see all those people. Wendy, Helen, Fiona, Heidi, Pete, Bron.
I think it's important.
Great to see Bron. I sent Bron an email just before. Hopefully she got it. How good's this? Love it. What's a thumb piano?
Oh, did you get the picture of Peter Leonard's thumb piano?
No.
Oh.
Unless it was sent on social media and I missed it.
Julie Hill is with us. I hardly get any comments. This drives me wild. Zuckerberg. I don't get anything about thumb pianos.
What do you mean? You swipe across to the side. Swipe across and you can get it.
Swipe left, swipe right.
All the comments will come up.
All I see is Helen Pocock said Venus retrograde ends tomorrow. Oh, Pete Lennon, I'm playing my thumb piano and writing in my journal.
Julie Hill's there. Great. I love that. Oh, Bron.
Is Pete being paid by his employer to play his thumb piano? Journal and come on, yeah.
I love it.
All right. Enough of the fun and games. Time to get serious. We've got a big conversation to have.
Sorry, just moving.
Are we ready to rock?
Well, yeah, I just had to close that window because it was wobbling, and you know what I'm like with audio, and we're in the middle of a big storm here in Melbourne town, so.
Oh, mental, isn't it? Just realised why I couldn't hear you very well. I had it turned down on I've got a manual volume adjuster on the cord.
Oh, right.
And my Skype settings going volume up, and it's already up so loud. It's an old volume adjuster.
One of those analog things.
One of those analog things. It was Tommy's set of headphones. It's like a $15 pair. And he gave them to me for Christmas. Because Father Christmas gave the kids a brand new set of headphones. And Tommy came in and said, Dad, do you want these? I said, sure. But they're actually good because they're a little bit noise cancelling. And in the last few days of school holidays, the thing you need the most is noise cancelling.
Noise cancellation, absolutely. Pete, that's my son. That's Jackson in the background over there.
He's so famous he won't turn around because there'll be some violation of image rights.
He's like the dentist from the Oral-B ad. This is Jack.
Good. Is that Damo's Apprentice behind? I love it. All right. Shall we?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
In 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, a weekly episode. No, weekly show? No, we don't do shows. We don't do episodes. A weekly show. Hold on a minute. Have I done this before? I've got to get the intro right. In 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, a weekly show dedicated to helping you master the art of aging well. Marcus Pearce here with you for the 463rd time, I think. And as always, I get to do it alongside my brother from another mother. He is my hero in life, in wellness, in longevity, in pretty much every area of life. Wow. I speak of none other than the great Damien John Christoph, DJK.
Wow, Piercy, that's unbelievable. Your hero. I don't know about that one, but thank you so much, and thank you for introing so unbelievably well today on a stormy day here in Melbourne, and I'm sure it's absolutely beautiful, 27 degrees or something above that up in the Byron Shire. Great to be here with you, mate. How are you? You good?
Yeah, good. Now, you are my hero, and just to go on a completely random tangent, Tommy...
very uncomfortable with that. Go.
Yeah, always good, like a good random tangent. Tommy, who's our number 3 at PSHQ, likes to have a playlist that's just for Tommy and Dad. So all the kids have the Mayor favourites and the Derby favourites, and if they're all in a good mood, there's the Mayor, Derby, and Tommy favourites, and they put their favourite songs in there so no one can complain.
Love it.
So anyway, now there's the Tommy and Daddy favourites, and he asked the other day, what's a song that I haven't heard that might be in, that you might want to pop in the Tommy and Daddy favourites, Dad? And I said, well, there's a great song by David Bowie called Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Wicked Heroes, just for one day. And so I've given that to Tommy. I've played it for him, and he's absolutely obsessed with it. So now he just walks around, and he's a rampant whistler.
Is
Tommy.
he?
Now, if you don't like whistling, Tommy will do your head in. But I love it because it normally expresses a sense of happiness.
Yes.
So there's a happy whistle just beating around Mullumbimby at the moment, and some people can't stand it because they just don't do whistling.
What are you so happy for?
Yeah, Tommy is whistling Heroes by David Bowie. On a regular basis, so that the word hero is on the tip of my tongue. And when I thought of you, I think of you, Damo, you are a hero for many of us. But I do want to raise this topic with you, which I shared with you before we hit record.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of weeks, we are going to record. We're going to interview a hero of longevity.
I can't wait for that.
And
that's going to be cool.
Sincere thank you to Carolyn Keane. Just outed her first name, last name. If there's any privacy issues, my apologies. Kate, massive thank you to you for sending us.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. An ABC article of a 93-year-old ballerina down in Tasmania by the name of Judith Kerr.
Mm.
JK.
JK.
Now, to JK today, good old Judith, and she was telling me that, the ABC, when they interviewed her, said, and the journalist will remain nameless because Judith didn't actually say exactly which journalist it was, but they were really keen to interview Judith because there's so much COVID news at the moment that in the words that Judith used with me, that a lot of the news has been dumbed down because there's far less variety in the news that we consume. And that got me thinking, because I remember, Damo, we would have people sending us articles all the time, which has been a great thing because they've been a lot of our guests, where we would be sent these articles or tagged on Facebook or emailed or whatever. And we'd then go and find them and we'd interview them and so on. But to be truthful, that happens less and less. And
yes.
It kind of all clicked for me today because we're seeing less and less of it in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, let's talk about this, because it's hard to get the Judith Kerr stories out there when the triage of media is putting more of their journalists onto the COVID front and less into the human interest front.
Yeah, I think it's a great subject, and it's a great point that you raise, the human interest issue. What's interesting, you and I are doing a podcast for an organisation, a special podcast specific for the organisation, and then we've added some extra podcasts to that mix. Thank you, Johnny Topholders, for helping us out in getting that.
Give him a plug.
Johnny. Now, Zaparis have selected a number of podcasts that we've already created, and all of the podcasts that they've selected are all human interest stories. If you have a look at that little list I gave you, the ones that they've selected out of the best of that we gave them, they've selected the human interest stories. There's a desire for it. People want it. People need it. And it's a connection point. Not only do we want to be connecting with people on a day-to-day basis inside our workplace or inside our family, but walking down the street, saying hello. PC and I, we love saying hello to people. And we, often we'll be walking along doing our exercise, PC and I together when we catch up, and we'll say hi to people, and they look at us thinking, what are these two fruitcakes saying hi to me for? And the same, I will do it here in Melbourne. Amber, Jack and I will be walking or running, and I say good morning to everybody as I go past them. And just because I love that sort of connection, hence the reason why I'm a chiropractor. But I was reading a study today, Piercy, it's a report, and they're considering how do we help the environment? I know this is going to be a podcast that we're going to do in the future, but this brings back the reason why we want to get connection. The reason why we need human interest stories is because we're shifting away from the desire to be human to more of a defensive approach, which is the desire to protect or prevent, as opposed to moving forward with creation and wow. I suppose positive expansion. So there's a bit of a pivot, but it's really important that we consider the language around it, because we don't want to be defensive. It's fatiguing being defensive. We want to be offensive in this, not offensive in terms of upsetting people. We want to be on the offense, on the front foot.
Attacking.
Yes, we want to make sure that we're getting these human interest stories out there, because that gives us purpose. It gives us reason. It gives us something to live for. These are important things. And might I add, and I'm going to bring a little golf story in here, PC. Imagine me bringing a golf story.
It wouldn't be a 109 episode anymore without a golf story. So bring it in now. 6-minute mark. Let's do it.
Thank you for adjusting with me. When I go and play golf with DJ Loiper, and he's a pro golfer, everyone's heard me talk about him before, he shows me what's possible. And the reason why I say that is when we look at people who have aged well and who are aging well and aging gracefully, they show me what's possible. I always thought that we had to do what the reference books told me, what the textbooks told me. The only textbook that you need to be looking at, let me just get it, is where's it gone? I think my desk has been cleaned
It's on every episode lately too.
God, here it is. The only textbook that you ever need to be looking at is this one. I would have to tell you a little story about that too. A little shout out to Cara and Mitch. Cara Humpert and Mitch came in the other day, and Cara said she bought the book for her mum, and her mum said that it changed her life.
No.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Yep. What a great book. What a great book. If you haven't bought your copy of Marcus's book, you need to get on to marcuspearce.com.au and buy a copy. Anyway, I digress.
It's the greatest chiropractic centre in the known universe, and Damo's got it there.
You get it there. You get it. But let me just say, when you see what's possible, you know what to aim for. That's what I love. That's what I love. And so I love when we interview people that have aged well, successfully aged, and they show me what's possible. I love that.
You're lighting a fire in the belly for me here, because the reckless one in me is almost like we must, for the sake of people's interest in life,
yes,
interview more people in 2022. I mean, yes, it's great us having our chats. We love it. Keeps our friendship going. The chat box on Facebook seems to enjoy it. But people learn by stories. Like you said, you wouldn't want to be learning golf through an app. You want to have a mentor or someone that you can relate to and talk to, and then can guide you as you go about expanding and improving your golf game. You want that real life connection. Yep. You go to a cafe, you want to talk to people, you want to say hi. Whether people are introverted or extroverted doesn't mean that they don't want to connect with human beings. I think everyone does, just in their own way. And I think it's incumbent upon us to interview at least 15 longevity leaders, living legends in 2022.
Okay.
15. I'm writing it down.
All right, 15. That's 15. One of our 100 goals. I love it. And we're off to a flyer there, because Brandon Efron, who you're going to meet with up in Byron Shire, his dad, Maurice Efron, one of the great people I've ever met, one of the greatest people I've ever met. Maurice has passed on the details for another centenarian, a 104-year-old gentleman that would like to be interviewed. So we'll bring him on, and we'll get that going too. So that's exciting.
All right, this is good. All right, so 15 living legends in 2022.
Now, Piercy, I want to ask you, why are you, do you think that we are being dumbed down?
Yes, so that's right. This was the conversation with Judith Kerr.
Yes.
So Judith said, yes, there's even the journalists acknowledge it, because they're spending so much time reporting COVID. And so now we are in that, because, you say to many people, can we talk about something other than COVID? And like, well, what else is there to talk about? And that's just a symptom of being fed only one flavour of ice cream at the ice cream shop, which everyone knows is Damo's favourite, vanilla. But what about the peppermint choc chip and the cookies and cream and the Stracciatella and the Mars and the Malteser and the sorbets and all of the other things that I never order, because you only get a chocolatey ice cream if you're in my world. But we're not getting that colour. The colour story. In journalism school, it would be always called the colour story.
Yes.
Give me more colour. I want more colour.
Yes.
We've lost the colour. Like, to be completely brutal, the only colour you seem to get now in media
is shit colour.
The overworked
brown
frontline worker.
Turd colour.
Well, it's like, here's Johnny Blogs. They've worked 4 double shifts. They haven't seen their kids in weeks, because they keep on working double shifts, and the grandparents are looking after the grandkids. Yeah. And this is sad. Like that, it sounds so sad even saying it.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to click the caring emoji just because it sounds sad. But in reality, that's where it's got to. Like, it's all about plucking at the heartstrings, not making people joyous and happy. So it's like, let's make people more sad, rather than actually, maybe that's their approach. We'll tell them a really sad story so they don't think they're as hard done by. But if you tell people, like, one of the great things at the moment is Dylan Alcott getting Australian of the Year. That's a great thing. Another great thing is having Ash Barty playing the final. That's unbelievable.
Well, here's a controversial one, because Pete Lennon says, in the Australian doubles players, is it great that Special K have made the final? And that's just time-stamping our episode, but...
Well,
go on.
Let's say he's one of the great entertainers. You can definitely say that. And it'd be great to see him actually win something, except for, front page of the media for not doing much. So it'd be great for him to actually get there, because he's a great entertainer and he's got so much talent. It'd be great for him to win something. I'd love that. It's
just diversity, though, isn't it? Like, you need the Kyrgios Kokkinakis, you need Ash Barty, you need Dylan Alcott.
Yes.
Like, those 3 teams, they're completely different representations of humanity, and that's what I think is so great. I think it's a great fillip for Australia, for patriotism, for culture, the non-sport people will go, oh, it's sport, but it's not about sport. Dylan Alcott is not about sport. Sport is just the vehicle he has used for this period of his life in order to share his message of inclusiveness 100%. And to appreciate and respect people with a disability. So same with, anyway, but I think that yes, putting my journalist hat on, given that if I was in a newsroom and I was chief of staff and it was all about COVID, well, the people that used to write the colour stories on the Judith Kerr, the 93-year-old ballerina, they're just not being sent to those jobs because they're less urgent, and we've got to give more airtime to cases and ICU and how many shipments of the vax and how many shipments of the rats and what happened to the supply chain and why can't I get a coffee at my local cafe because
chickens run out
COVID and all the rest of it. So I get it. I'm not downing the stories, but I do think there is a fatigue. And you said it earlier, defense is fatiguing. And a lot of those stories are of a defensive nature, and they definitely don't inspire and draw us in a way that energizes us. They're sugar hits. They give us a spark of energy because we might need to know them. If a border's closed, we need to know that if you've got a holiday booked and all the rest of it. So public service announcements, yes, but I think we have been dumbed down in it. What do we talk about now that's not a COVID contextualized conversation? And I think we need to do more of them because Judith Kerr, we can talk to her without a context of COVID.
Yes.
The only context we might add, but it probably wouldn't even be beneficial, is, how her classes, like I know in the conversation I had with her today, she's doing less classes than she was 3 years ago. But that's not really what the conversation is about. She had some pretty fascinating things to say today that go beyond the dumbed down nature of what we consume at the minute. She was fascinating for the 16 minutes that I spoke to her. And I can't wait for us to chat with her and ask her questions that have nothing to do with the last couple of years. And that is something I think we need to do more of.
Yeah. Here. I agree with you totally. Bit of sadness came over my body then as we were talking about that, because it occurred to me she's 93. Did you say 93? And then the person that Morris has referred us on to was 104, and I realised that at 104, that person was born in 1918. Now, there's not a lot of people that were born in the 1918 or 1990 or 1920s. There's not a lot of them left. So now we're pushing into the late 1920s, early 1930s. So to be able to have another interview in this millennia with somebody who is in the very early stages of the previous millennia, that's a very special story. And that's the same year that my nana was born, 1918. So
1918, okay, there you go. Well, here's what I think is really interesting about what we're talking about here is we are going to live through a time where every World War I survivor dies.
Yes.
And we're going to live through a time where every World War II survivor dies.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll be in my 60s or 70s when that happens. And this is why I feel like, and not just using war is just an example of being able to learn perspective from people and so many life lessons. But there is an urgency for a show and an interest group like you and I and the people that listen and watch this podcast. Like, there is an urgency, because even Judith Kerr said today, she's like, I'd love to get to 100, but I don't know if I'm going to get there, especially given the times we're in at the moment.
Oh.
So there's an interest and an urgency in having these messages perpetualized. How many of our 100 Not Our guests died last year?
Yes, I know.
That we thankfully have their
legacy
voice recorded forever. Eddie JQ.
Yep, amazing.
Amber's grandmother, Isabel Carmody.
Yep.
Dexter Kruger.
Isabel Wallace.
Isabel Carmody's an author. There's one other that is on the tip of my tongue that I'm missing. But they are recorded. They are there.
Yes. No. Dexter.
Dexter, Eddie, Isabel.
Isabel.
One more. Isn't that shocking when you forget someone that you know you? Yeah.
Can't remember.
Anyway. That's okay. But I think it would be great to ask everyone that's watching and listening just to consider the breadth of consumption, and has it been streamlined where it's just kind of the same type of stuff over and over. And if it is, then unfortunately we now have to go out and go on the offense, as Damo said earlier, and we've got to go and seek this more inspiring, mentored type impact or influence on our life.
Yes.
And if we get it in real life, that's great. If it's someone that you play golf with, if it's someone that you catch up with regularly, but we're not going to get it from our special stories on the news or on the mainstream media. We actually used to, and we kind of loved it. We'd almost hang our hat on that as a way to consume it.
Yeah.
You know, we got Ikaria. We really got Ikaria crystallized through Liz Hayes going there and that story being sent to us. Like, that was a mainstream media colour story. It wasn't urgent. It had a bit of novelty about it because of its longevity and research and everything. It's great for a mainstream media, but they're not going to go there now.
No.
You even do a news search on Ikaria now, no one's talking about it in terms of longevity. They just recycled old stories from 3 years ago. Like,
yeah,
you know.
Well, I think one was there was a book written about it, right? So, you know, I think if your book gets to triple bestseller, you know, or if it's, you know, on the New York Times bestseller list or whatever it's got to get to, and maybe Pete Lennon can help us get it there. If we get your book to there, then maybe that piques interest and people go, oh, what is this whole blues? I remember the Blue Zones from a couple of years ago, you know, because when you think about it, the Blue Zones now, it's old news. Like, we're talking 8 or 9 years ago. That's Dan Buettner stuff. So then you go, well, maybe it's even longer than that. It's 8 or 9 years ago that we were talking about it. So if you think about that, there needs to be a refresh on longevity. And what's the reason for living a long time? Why would you want to live a long time? Like, that's a great question.
What I'm thinking of at the moment, and this is just musings in the morning over a coffee, is life has changed so much for all of us over the last couple of years.
True.
But the rules of a great life, on how to live a great life, are exactly the same as they've always been.
Never changed. Yeah, that's right.
But we'd be stupid to say that they're no more difficult to excel in. They are more difficult to excel in, but it doesn't mean that the rules have changed. It's just that they might be harder or more nuanced in order to achieve or experience. But that's kind of what's playing in my head at the moment, is how will humanity get out of not the stupor, but the reduction in choice of consumption, because that's just how it is at the moment. How will humanity go, I actually want to learn more of, whether it's longevity or playing the piano or playing golf or learning ballet from a 93-year-old? Like, how will that happen again? And yeah, that's the great unknown, I suppose.
Well, we commit to doing 15 of those this year, and that could be the way in which you get your answer, Piercy. You might get your
I love that. I love that. We are going mining for inspiration.
We're going
seeking
front foot forward. We're going to...
And Judith Kerr, couple of weeks.
Judith Kerr, yeah. That's our number one. That's where we'll start.
Well, this has been wonderful. A great chat with you, Damo, as always. Thank you for your wisdom. And if you are yet to glean Damo's wisdom from his website, make sure and you go and scrape everything you can from DamienChristof.com. Don't even attempt double F. You'll get nowhere. And don't ever put an E in his first name, which I saw someone do today. That person will remain nameless.
Brandon Efron.
He did it. DamienKristof.com. Myself, MarcusPearce.com.au. And until next week, as always, continue to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Bye for now.
Oh, you mean man.
I don't know how many times you got to spell your name right before people actually realise that they've spelt it wrong. I don't know what you got to do. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Pete Lennon wants to come on the show.
We're going to keep you sweaty, Pete. You got to get to 101.
42 years. 43 years time, Pete, you can come on. That's
Pete, we're going to be so famous in 42 years' time. We might even have a 2-year wait list.
Yeah, we might have a 2-year deal with Spotify by then. Yeah.
You know, I'll be 82.
I wonder if Spotify will still be around in 42 years' time.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what we won't be doing. We won't be using Skype in 42 years' time.
Oh, Skype is on its last legs. If ever there's been a piece of software on its last legs,
there's BlackBerry, and Skype.
Huh?
Yeah, they're both really hung in there, about as much as MySpace. That's what's going on there.
All right, shall we get into this next conversation?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. I really do want to find out what episode we're recording. So we just did one, which will be 462. So the one we're about to do is 463. Okay.
Didn't you just say
Cool.
463 before?
Oh, I said 62 or 3 or something. It doesn't matter. Now I've got the facts. I can put that to one side.
Can't argue the facts. What are we going to do this one?
The facts. This is veganism and its role in saving the planet.
Let's not call it veganism. That's not going anywhere. Let's go plant-based.
Are plants going to save the world?
Ooh, plant-based. I love it.
Will plant-based diet save the world?
Plant-based. Are plants going to save the world? Love that. What a topic. You should be a journalist. All right, good.
Here we go. Are you ready?
You know what I did then is I switched the sides of our cameras. It's amazing.
Oh, now before we hit record, I just got to say hello to everyone because I'm terrible at multitasking, which is a good thing.
Pritesh is back.
But Pritesh,
he's
back. Pritesh, send us some questions. We're going to do 15 living legends and let's do 15 listener questions.
All right, I love that.
30 episodes. And then we'll do 15 just random chats.
Yep.
That's 45.
Yeah.
And then 7 just whatever.
Yeah. Maybe some good news stories.
Jesse Ann is here. The Game Changer's here. Helen Pocock, as always. Pete Lennon. Don't forget the 91-year-old soccer referee that referred my daughter's game. I sent you a link. Oh, well, send it again, Pete, if you can, because I got no idea where that link is. Started my 100 goals last night with Brett. Good work, Helen. It is hard. Did you hear that? See that? Helen Pocock doing 100 goals, mate.
They've all made it to the Facebook page. All those have gone up live. They're all live.
Sorry, I've only just seen them now. Yeah, sorry. I'm just before we record next episode.
No worries, Sandra Sully. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the late news tonight. All right. A young 49-year-old man is hanging shit on his co-host before they hit record.
I'm 48.
Okay.
I'm 48.
48. About to turn 49.
Gee whiz. About to turn 49 this year. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, well, it's a
Who
hard...
are you?
You?
Gosh.
Soul searching. You're about to go from soul searching and wonder into an ever-growing vision and understanding of life. That's how wise you're becoming. 7-year cycles. Love it. I love someone turning 49. I'm pumped for your birthday. Okay. Sorry, I know it's Chatty Friday. I'll stop and I'll hit record. Okay, you ready?
You know what's happening?
Yeah.
Like, it went from being plant-based, will plants save the world, to
be 100 not out.
I don't even know how that happened. Plant-based. Will plants save the earth? I'm going to write earth. I think that's...
We've got to throw Damo a big 50th birthday party. Oh, Damo. Can we have... No, we said this, actually. Oh, no, I won't say that. Yeah. Will I say that? Anyway, we're going to have a global party.
We are. We're heading to Ikaria.
We definitely want to be in Ikaria for Damo's 50th. Well, in his 50th year. And and we've got to have for your 50th what I wanted for my 40th, like 3 parties.
Yes.
An intimate one.
Yeah.
And then have like a 50 to 151.
Yeah.
50, 100 not outers get invited to a 50th birthday batch.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a global one. Anyway, I mean, these things require planning. Pritesh, if you want to get started on the planning, that'd be great. Venue, catering, guest list.
Here we go. And Caroline's already chimed in, which is great. So thanks, Caroline. Caroline's saying growing your own veggies will not only save us, but will help save the world through a cleaner environment. Well, this is great because this is where we want to head. So thank you for kicking us off, Caroline. Appreciate it.
All right, here we go.
Good.
In 3, 2, and 1. Hello, 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, episode 463. You are listening to a weekly show dedicated to helping you master the art of aging well Marcus Pearce is my name. And every single week, the greatest, most incredible, entertaining health practitioner you have ever met. A lot of health practitioners are like boring science types. This guy is the rock star of wellness and longevity. He would rock a rock concert better than Freddie Mercury. He is Dr. Damien Christoph, and we are blessed with his company once again. Rockstar, how are you?
Piercy, you're hilarious. I've actually seen you dressed up as Freddie Mercury, and you tear the stage up. And if anybody wants to see that, let me know, because I have the video for that, and I'll put that up on Facebook.
You won't be able to find it.
I've got it. I've saved it on my Dropbox. I've got it everywhere. One of the greatest videos of all time is Piercy dressed up as Freddie Mercury. Was it We Are the Champions? Is that what you're saying? What did you sing?
Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga, yes.
Because we're talking.
Did you do something else? Anyway, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
A guitar nearly landed in Steph Northeast's heavily belly. That's lap. Another day. Brett Hill just smashed the only guitar he's ever smashed in his life, and it swung back. It's a bit of a hairy moment.
It was hairy. There was a lot of hair, I got to tell you.
Julie Hill says, what we all want to see. Julie, you'll never find it. I promise you. It's hidden.
Julie,
hidden in the back burner, in the basement of Facebook.
I love it. I love it. I was talking to Piercy. I'm going to segue right from there, like this. I'm going to segue like leaping from Earth to the moon. And I was talking to Piercy before we went live on our last episode, episode 462. And we were talking about human connection. And I then segued to, well, there's no point us living a human connection if we don't have a good quality planet. And vice versa. No point having a good quality planet if we don't have human connection. What's the point of having a good planet if we're not going to talk to each other? You know, really, let's face it. Why would we go and invest gazillions of dollars moving away from non-renewable fuels to renewable fuels, and we don't even want to talk to each other? We can't even say hello to each other when we're walking down the path at Black Rock, one of the greatest untapped resources in Melbourne. And it's a great secret. Even now, as I speak to you, it's still a secret. And if you can't talk to people, if there's no connection, why would you try to save the environment? Here's a great question. So there was a report. It's the EAT report, EAT, which I love, and it was commissioned by The Lancet, and it's Food, Planet and Health, healthy diets from sustainable food systems. And I was reading this today as part of my my CPD for my fellowship, right, which is what I do. So it was written by Professor Walter Willett, MD, from the School of Public Health in Harvard University. So, and it goes into a lot of detail. And there's a few things that are really striking in this particular report. And there's a really big shift towards making our diets more than 50% plant-based and less than 10% animal protein based, which may be a saviour. It may actually be a boon. It could be what we need to save the planet from a food perspective if we need to get our farming back on track. But there were statistics in there that pointed to the fact that there was nearly 1 billion people that are undernourished on the planet right now. Nearly 1 billion people undernourished, which is unbelievable. It also points to the fact that in the US, their macronutrient ratios are way out of whack. So across the world, we consume 288% more animal protein than what we need, and 293% more starchy plant-based vegetables than what we need. That's basically potatoes. And then 153% of dairy. But what I found really fascinating was that in America alone consumes 638% more red meat than what they actually need. That's mind-blowing. 638%. That's 6.5 times more meat. That's just meat. We're not talking chicken and fish. That's just meat.
I shouldn't laugh, but I am.
That is meat. More than what they need, which is unbelievable. They consume 171%, or nearly 2 times as much potato as what they require. They have nearly 3 times or 300% more eggs than what they require, 234% more chickens than what they require, which is 2.5 times more, and 145% more dairy than what they require. But in terms of plants, they're drifted. Like, they're so far away from how many plants they need. So
yeah, what are they? Are they in a deficit with plants?
Oh yeah, by miles.
Does it say like minus 700%?
Yeah, like they're probably consuming less than or just around about 50% of what they really require, which is unbelievable.
Almost feels like that. That's still a high number.
Now, one of the things, and Wilma Brantner, welcome back to the podcast, Wilma. She's joining us live from the US. One of the things that's really fascinating about this is that Wilma says, not in this American home, and I would absolutely totally agree. Now, here's the thing, right? This data is skewed by those people that skew it. And so if you think about this, Wilma is skewing it in the other direction and it doesn't even register. Does that make sense? So Wilma has a lot of plants. She's not over-consuming cows and horses and sheep. She's not over-consuming that. She's actually consuming the right amount of red meat for her and her husband, and the statistics in America is still 638%. So quite significant. So anyway, just worth considering that. So just throwing that out there. I just want to read some of these comments because there's some really great comments in here. So Jesse says, so good. That was my thoughts exactly. We'll never forget that. Laugh out loud. Oh, that was all about you dancing. I love that. Wilma says, not this American home. Pete says, have we got Australian stats or are they not available? Not in this report, Pete. I've got South Asian. I've got Southeast Asian stats, which were interesting. Essentially, we just eat 125% more potatoes. I don't think Australia's considered to be South Asian. Maybe South Asian could just be India, maybe the subcontinent. I don't know. Doug says no red meat consumed in our American house. I have to admit, I've been hitting the Brussels sprouts a lot lately. That's good. That's good for the environment too. I've got to tell you, Doug. And Pratesh is saying, I'm telling you, broccoli is the answer. I love it. Wilma says, yeah, it makes sense. Michelle says balance. Now that's a great thing, Michelle, is balance. But I can tell you this, that in this report, the balance equation's totally different. Like it's totally
even the
different.
people that this is like I've just been writing all of those numbers down feverishly.
Yeah, like a reporter.
There's so much to take in. I'm writing down culture with big boxes around it, like the American eating culture.
Yeah.
I'm writing down all of the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm then doing the maths on 50%, more than 50% plant-based is an ideal, and less than 10% animal. Well, what's in between? Like, if you're going to get to 100%, like, what are they saying? 90% plant, 10%. Like, I'm thinking of you doing the palm method, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have to come back to that in this episode because I still maintain that the simplicity of your teachings and philosophies on this are timeless. All of these reports into it. I'd love to interview Walter Willett. Do you reckon he's a guest worth a discussion?
Yeah, I think so. And we get the data interpretation straight from the research.
As long as it's not dry. I'm not having one of those boring.
I'll reach out to Walter. I'll reach out
20-minute
and have a look. But we know we're looking at the United Nations and the Paris Agreement, and we're looking at ways in which we can have a sustainable diet. And this is all really incredibly important because with our current farming practices, we are destroying the environment and we are creating an environmental disaster. So we do need to change it for sure. So
one of my big kind of insights, particularly when I stopped being vegan,
yes,
was that in all of the literature, and I've still got them up here. I've got my bookshelf up here. I could, whether it was reading the China study, or if I was reading David Wolf, or if I was reading any of the books that I just pulled out, John Robbins and all the rest of it. John Robbins is definitely the more balanced and measured of them. But what I found interesting is that so many of the stats, and I feel like even with all of these, it's so skewed to fast food consumption. So then all farming of meat gets put into this one box called farming. And I think of some of the people that we've spoken to on here, and I even remember even your conversations back on the Wellness Guys. But if I think of Charlie Arnott, who's a regenerative farmer,
yes,
who would never raise cattle for McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
And then I
Alan
think of the
Savory.
way that you eat meat, Alan Savory. I think of the way you eat meat. I think of the way we eat meat. I think of the way we observe longevity cultures eat meat. They do not overdo it. It is such a sacred, and I still remember one of our attendees going, do you think we could, and it wasn't a mean question, she was just really curious, do you think we could watch Ilya slaughter a goat?
Mm-hmm.
And Ilya said, I'm sorry, it's not to say it's a traumatic process, but it is. It's very emotional. It's really, it's a big thing to kill an animal in order to eat. And most of us as consumers have completely lost that. We've lost that proximity to the process. Even I bought half a dozen snags yesterday, and I'm driving home, and they're in the car, and they're in a brown paper bag, and it's like you forget so much how intense that process is for someone. But most of the farming of animal protein has been done where it's lost all emotional connection to the land and the life of that animal. So the statistics often seem so skewed to McDonald's patties and Hungry Jack's
and KFC chickens,
all you can eat, and KFC chickens. But what about the people like you and me and Wilma and people that are watching or listening to this right now that actually don't engage in that behavior? Because it almost feels like, as someone that's been vegan and is now an omnivore, thanks to your wise counsel over the years, that I don't fit in either camp. I'm not in the vegan will save the world camp, but I'm not in the eating meat is the best thing, like eating lots of meat. You know, I'm not in the Sam Kekovich, eat your lamb. I'm just in just want a bit of everything. I want a palm method, and there doesn't seem to be much messy middle. It seems to be extreme statistics. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, so I think the middle ground is definitely close to the palm method. And when I read this report, which has got a lot of science, a lot of data all the way through it, it talks about making your plate 50% plant foods. I've always said that. I've always said that 50% plant foods, in terms of vegetables and salads and fruits. That's what I've always said, which is really great. The new definition, or the refined definition, really is looking at where do we source our proteins from, and
that's where do we source?
This is it. This is it, because the fishery is being eroded. The land is being eroded, and so we've got to be really mindful of that. There's a lot of thrown out produce, like it's discarded, or it's fed to...
We wouldn't have a hunger problem if we actually didn't throw all of our food out. That's the saddest thing of it all.
I know, isn't that incredible? Like, why would we throw it out when there's people starving on the streets? It just blows me away. But there's significant issues with this, so yes, we can move towards plants, no doubt about it. But in the shift and the movement towards plants, it increases our requirement for the utilization of water to keep our plants growing. The flip side of that is if we don't change our farming methods, then we're using more nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, NPK, to get all of that going. That's going to ultimately destroy the land. We're going to lose biodiversity. We're going to be destroying our bacteria that's actually in the land. So not that I'm suggesting that we need to be eating more animals to substitute that. We need to find ways in which we can be sustainably farming, and this report goes into that, because it talks about climate change, land system change, freshwater use, nitrogen cycling, phosphorus cycling, biodiversity loss, and it talks about different controllable variables and all that sort of stuff. It's a great report, and I'm not too sure if I'm actually able to share it. Maybe I might try and find it online and see if I can find it online, a link to it, but it is a great report for us just to consider that with this comes a lot of change, and not just a small little drift in the direction we're heading. It's a U-turn in the direction that we're heading. It's the same as climate change from a perspective of energy. We can't just flick the switch and stop using oil. We need oil for so many things. We need oil for so many things. So, to move towards an electric car, Where do you think the electric car in Melbourne gets its electricity from? From burning coal, right? So
how do they make the batteries?
Yes, from lithium. And so we think about that, and there's a lot that has to take place in order to shift before we can actually get this right. So it's not just a matter of going, yes, I promise to be at zero emissions and I'm going to buy heaps of carbon credits. There's a lot to go with it. So yes, changing our diet, moving towards more plant-based diet is very, very important. And Pritesh makes a great point. And Pritesh actually says, I guess it comes down to exercising individual responsibility to save our planet. And yes, you are right. And we can all start by doing that in our kitchens. We can all start by doing that from where we buy our produce. There's no doubt about that. How we bag up our produce. Do we need to be using plastic bags to do that sort of stuff, etc., etc., etc. But I'll tell you what, if we're not talking to our neighbour, do we need an unbelievably good planet? Where do we head?
Well, yeah, and this is like you said, if you're going to judge your neighbour for what they eat or where their kids go to school or what car they drive or whatever, well, who cares how healthy the planet is if there's nothing to experience on the planet? But what you've also said here, which I'm writing down as well, is if we don't adjust our lifestyles, where a lot of people are eating fast food. I look at the ads. I'm watching the tennis at the moment, and all of the ads for Menulog and Uber Eats. I'm like, oh my gosh, the rise of just not cooking at home, must be there because it's all over the ads. It's all over TV, and everything that you and I are saying is let's get back to the art of. And this is, don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing takeaway. I freaking love it. What I'm saying is it's clearly in high demand,
yes.
But if we look at cultures and we've lived this and we do it and we've all made adjustments, why are we doing that? Why aren't we cultivating the time in our day or our weeks to shop for really good produce and spend an hour in the kitchen making the meal and enjoying that as a de-stress or a calming down? You know, watching Damo in the kitchen is watching a master at work, but it didn't happen overnight. I know when he was studying accountancy, smoking basil, that it wasn't going to be his life's purpose to spend time in the kitchen. But you ever go to Damo's house and he slices the tomatoes so calmly, and then he picks the basil out of he's like Rowan Atkinson in Love Actually. He just does it so consciously. And if you're hungry, you're going, come on, Damo, for God's sake, just get it over and done with. But he cuts the tomato, he gets the basil, he puts the oil, gets the bocconcini out, just slices it so just beautifully. Bit of oil, bit of salt, bit of pepper, glass of rosé, and it's so deliberate. Now, you can't get that with Menulog, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, McDonald's, all the rest of it. And the vast majority of their protein source is the numbers that Damo just read out at the beginning of this episode. Yeah. It's coming from those, and you don't get to control the portion sizes in there. You don't. If they're putting 150 gram beef patty in your burger, I don't see many people cutting it in half down to 75. And then you've got a food wastage problem anyway because it's already been processed. This is not, So it's our culture and our responsibility, and it's that cracking your stress code, as Damo allocutes so well, that I think is also at the forefront of change in this domain as well.
Yeah, I agree, PC. A whole lot more data to come from that report, and when we interview William. Yes, when we interview
Walter Willett.
Yes, I thought that was wrong. When we interview Walter, we'll drill down on that and get a lot more detail and data on it. But it really is a great article. It's 30 pages. It's great. But it really got me thinking, and I'd love us. It's not that we need to be doing one thing at a time. So some people go, oh, yes, I'm doing my bit for the planet. I've got a recycling bin. Or I'm doing my bit for the planet. I'm now not using paper cups. I've got a keep cup. Or I'm doing my bit for the planet. I'm cooking from home. There's so many things that we can do, little 1%ers all the way along the way. And you just don't have to do one thing at a time. But one of the greatest things you could do for the planet is help people be happy. And you do that by maintaining connection. And that's how we'll get a better planet. You've got to be happier.
Oh, I love that. Be a better friend. Be a better community member. Damo loves Black Rock. He's the mayor of Bayside. He is the smiling assassin around Melbourne town. This has been great. I've just written down, Damo.
Yes.
On the back of our commitment last week, 15 living legends in 2022, 15 chats, 15 chinwags, 15 Q&As from our listeners.
Yes.
And then I've just closed the circle, 7 subject matter experts, like a Walter Willett.
Yes.
We've got Chloe McLeod coming up to talk FODMAPs.
Yep, love it.
But you can't have too many subject matter experts because
then I'd be out of a job. I'd be out of a job.
Yeah, and you just, they're not always the most engaging chats. But our 7 will be do not miss.
They'll be kickers.
They'll be kickers.
Yeah.
They'll be there. So that's great. Love this chat, as always. And your wisdom knows no boundaries, Damo, and I thank you for bringing this important topic to us today. So, again, like most conversations on here, there's a bit of maturity in this. It's not just one way or another.
No.
It's a holistic approach to improving the health of the planet, but improving the health of social relationships and life in general is just as important. Damo can be found at, DamienChristoph.com.
Can I just say, I just want to say hi to Von. She jumped on.
Oh, Von's joined on.
Von's joined. Von, came here. And Vincent came in. And Wilma's missing BlackRock, which I know they must be, for sure. And Pete wants to know when we're going to get Anna on. That's a great question, actually. He's coming. He's coming. Great question.
He's coming. I sent Pete a message today saying that taking Darby, I can say this because Darby doesn't know yet, and he's definitely a shout out to a person that doesn't listen. He is 9. Darby and I going to the Young Warriors camp, rites of passage. Yep.
Great.
9-year-olds are full on, man. You remember when Jacko was 9? It's time. It's time.
Yeah.
So we're going to get Anna on. Maybe it'll be around that time because the vicinity will be there.
Love it.
All right. DamienChristoph.com is where you find all of Damo's wisdom. Myself, MarcusPearce.com.au. To all of our listeners and viewers on Facebook. If you're not a viewer on Facebook, get online. It's the only time Damo and I are on the socials each week. We are as close to invisible when we are not doing 100 Not Out.
We're almost antisocial. but not really. The reverse of that. It's just that we don't like socials. I don't know how that works. But anyway,
at 100 Not Out, because it's not tactile enough.
Nah.
I can't high five you as my kids keep on trying to touch my MacBook Pro screen. I'm like, kids, it's not an iPad.
Yeah.
It's a laptop. You can't touch it.
I went to zoom in on my page on my book the other day. Yeah, that was a sign of the times.
The specs.
Oh no, you just like
Spectators.
You know what it was? Is I literally had the page open on a proper book, and I went like this on the book. Okay. Didn't zoom in.
Oh no! Oh, you did it!
Yes.
Like
on the paper book.
Like this?
Yes.
That's hilarious. That is too good. I love it. I love it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's a sign of the times, isn't it?
Oh, that's so good. I love it. All right. Until next week, folks. Thank you for your support of the podcast. Don't go pinching your book page. And until next time, may the rest of your life be the best of your life.
Bye for now.
I just kissed.
Kiss.
That was so random.
You kissed.
Wow.
You kissed.
And there's no one to kiss to. I've got your beautiful face under the camera, but yeah.
That's hilarious. Hey, we've got 100 hearts today. That's pretty good.
Is that right? I haven't done any, so I'll add to that. 100 Not Out hearts.
Look at that. Going crazy. I love it. Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We had a great audience today. Maybe Friday's a good day for an audience. But it was wonderful to have everyone here. Great.
I like Friday. It's been a chatty Friday. People are up for chat today. I've got to check the moon calendar to see why everyone's so chatty today. Myself included. I can't shut up.
Pete said the same thing. That's awesome.
All right,
mate. Well, let's finish this. We'll say bye to everybody on Facebook. And
Facebook, have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. See ya. You blew another kiss.